Welcome back, gang. It's Deltia from Deltiasgaming.com. And if you're like me, you might be an antisocial person who likes to play MMORPGs. Which I don't know why, I do. But as I get older, I like a little bit more solo-friendly MMORPG. And in this video, I'm going to go over the top 5 what I think are the most solo-friendly and why. By the end of this video, I'm going to give you an idea of what makes a solo-friendly MMORPG, should you play them, and what might fit you best if you don't have a huge, robust online social life like me. I can say it about myself. But still enjoy playing these games, dipping your toe into multiplayer online. Here we go, top 5. Number 5 is old school RuneScape. So this is an MMORPG, and yes, it's very old. It was originally launched in 2001 and released in 2013. So this is kind of a remake of the classic 2D graphic open world gameplay sandbox. And when we say sandbox, that means it's not like the developer makes everything for you. It's very player driven. Players make their own fun. So it blends a lot of questing, combat skills, exploration, and a lot of PvP and player driven choices. Another benefit of this game is it's on Windows, Mac, iOS, and Android, so you can play it very easily just from your phone. With cross-platform, it's very easy to hop in and play almost anywhere at all times. Along with the activities in old school RuneScape, so you can play quest, you can do a lot of skill training, and you can do a lot of grinding. So this game is very grind heavy. But for people that are on mobile and just want something to do to pass the time while they're at a dentist office or something, this can be a great game for you. It has a lot of solo PvE content like boss fights, which can be tackled alone with the right preparation. You can also do a lot of world activities like mining, woodcutting, crafting. So if you like that sort of thing, this game could be for you. Now, if you haven't played old school RuneScape, skill development is a lot about quest completion. So players advance by earning experience points and various skills from combat to crafting. It's going to feature a non-linear leveling system, so allows solo players to kind of specialize and tinker around with whatever they like. It's also going to be linked to completing quests. And you can do things like mining, which are other forms of progression. It's going to have what's almost like an unlimited amount of progression, whatever type of form that you choose, that you can do solo. Now, the downside of this game is it is going to be grind heavy. When we say the word grindy, it means doing the same repetitive action over and over and over. Some people don't mind that. I personally like killing zombies in a circle over and over and over for hours because I'd really like the combat and the feel. If it weren't for the grind heavy nature, that would be a turnoff to some players, this game would rank higher on the list. The fact that it has non-linear progression, it has multiple avenues of progression, and it has like what seems like limitless. But playing this game, you're going to hit a wall sometimes where you're like, man, I'm doing the exact same thing over and over and over, and there's no end in sight to maxing your skills out. But if you're someone that likes that, having that super long window of things to do, you want to basically able to play on a bunch of different platforms. You have a massive amount of people. It's low graphics, so you don't really need a high-powered PC. This is for you. Okay, next up is number 4, and that is Black Desert Online. This is going to be action-oriented MMORPG. It was first released in Korea and then later globally. It's going to have ridiculous graphics, amazing combat. It's very fast-paced, tons of customization. It looks and plays amazing. It's going to feature an open world with a lot of things for solo players to do, including PvE and PvP, and a lot of life skills like crafting, fishing, and trading. So it's not just killing enemies or killing other players. It's the other things players like to do, especially solo. This is going to be a sandbox game, so it's going to allow players to explore, grind, craft their way to success. And we're using that grind word again because BDO can be very grindy. But playing solo or a small group, you can just make a lot of different progression. It's also available on a lot of platforms, so PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and mobile. So Black Desert is going to have a few avenues for players to experience stuff solo. You can do it through the open world. It's a very big, expansive open world. Or you can queue up for specific content like PvE, dungeons, and boss fights. You'll have a lot of zones, tons of quests, and a lot of PvP in the zones, or even siege events. So PvP is going to be optional, and you can avoid it mostly and do PvE and other activities if you like. And BDO is going to be unique, and it offers minimal story focus. So a lot of these games on the solo list are going to be quest based. Some of them lock you into having to complete the main story quest, which is quite annoying. So factor that in if you're a solo player, having and being forced to complete the main story versus having the option. Now, the combat and the visuals is really what people play Black Desert Online. It's super fast-paced, action-oriented, and highly dynamic. You'll also have a ton of different classes, and you'll have your own unique set of skills. So it's going to require timing and positioning. A little bit different than other MMOs, which is all about managing cooldowns and rotating through an endless series of skills. Black Desert Online is also going to offer auto farming features, so it's useful for people that want to set up farms and resource and level up away from the game. And then progression in BDO is going to focus on gear upgrades, life skill upgrades, and overall character progression. So why doesn't BDO rank higher on this list? Well, it's a big complex progression system, and it's going to be very daunting for new players to get in. It's not going to be a straightforward solo experience. And a lot of these MMORPGs are going to be brutal with catching up. And sometimes, especially an open world PvP game, you can be ganked or harassed by other players simply because you don't play 18 hours a day since the game is launched. Also, some of the reward content are geared towards group participation. So solo players are going to have a really tough time of obtaining the highest level quality of gear or having the best experience in group-based activities. It's not necessarily a deal breaker for solo players, but just realize these two things is what holds BDO back from being higher on this list. It has great combat, looks cool, it's accessible on a bunch of different platforms, and it's not reliant on multiplayer combat. So if you like a little bit of PvP and PvE blend, want something that's action-oriented and beautiful looking, check out BDO. Next up is number 3, Guild Wars, MMORPG developed by ArenaNet, published by NCSoft, released in 2012. So it has a lot of dynamic events. It has cool action-based combat similar to Elder Scrolls Online and has a big, massive world. What I personally like about Guild Wars 2 is that solo players can achieve and collect a lot of things in games, specifically like cosmetics. A lot of MMORPGs these days just relentlessly charge you for these cosmetics, but Guild Wars 2 offers these cool mounts that can fly, look beautiful, along with a ton of other things just by playing the game. And this is what's great for solo players is most of us will want to progress our character in terms of power, right? That's important. Get more powerful, kill stronger bosses, and so on. But sometimes solo players, they just want to get cool looking things and have something to do that doesn't require 12 to 24 people to be on at the exact same time to complete the exact same raid. That's where Guild Wars 2 shines. Moreover, Guild Wars 2 is pretty cheap. It's available on PC, but it doesn't require a massive purchase and/or a sub to get started and join. So you can jump in right away and have a pretty good experience without spending a ton of money. You can get caught up pretty easy in Guild Wars 2. And similar to BDO, it has a great blend of PvE and PvP. And what I like about Guild Wars 2 is that you can kind of make the game what you want. If you want to eventually jump off and find a guild and do serious PvE or serious group PvP, it's available to you. The combat is fun if you like action-oriented. So it's going to be pick a class, and it's all about positioning, dodging, and skill timing. So it's going to have skill bar system similar to Elder Scrolls Online, where you're going to have a set number of skills versus like World of Warcraft having 30 or 50 skills all on different timers that you're managing. So it's going to feel more like an action game versus a traditional MMORPG like World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy. Progression is also very flexible and great for solo players. So like crafting, you can progress through dynamic events, story, world exploration, and crafting. The map is going to be massive with tons of things to explore into. So what holds Guild Wars back, in my opinion, from being higher on this list is it doesn't have the rich story elements of a couple others on this list. It's harder to obtain the end-game gear as a solo player, and it's only on PC, so the population's a bit limited compared to others that might have a bigger, more robust community if you want to jump off into group play. Guild Wars 2 is probably the cheapest safest, easiest way to jump in and experience a cool fantasy MMORPG for solo players. Next up is number 2, and that's the Elder Scrolls Online, developed by ZeniMax Online Studio, published by Bethesda Softworks. ESO is a massive MMORPG in Tamriel. So this game was launched in 2014. It's on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and the next-gen consoles. Now, it's not crossplay, so those individual servers are kind of isolated in their own areas, but it does have a wide variety of different options to play the game. And what I love about Elder Scrolls Online, playing it for thousands of hours, is you are allowed to do whatever you want. Almost every other MMO I play, you have to spend 20, 30 hours doing this main story quest, even if you can't stand it, or you have to do crafting, or you have to do PvP, or you have to do PvE. ESO is like, hey, here's a 2-hour tutorial. You can go where you want and do what you want. And that's what's so good, is that the crafting gear is really good and strong in endgame. And same with Overland, and you can solo some dungeons. They also added companions to the game and try to spice this up, which is kind of like an ally, not as good as another player, but something that you could work on and bring with you in the open world or even dungeons to help you in combat. And ESO receives tons of updates, and the area is massive. The thing about Elder Scrolls Online is the story and quest are more linear. So you're not going to make decisions necessarily. You're really just kind of listening to the dialogue, which is wonderful, deep, and adds a ton to the Elder Scrolls universe, but it doesn't offer a lot of choice. And that's kind of what holds it back for me being number 1 on the list, is the story is just so dreadfully easy. And nothing against the developers, they have to make the story based for not people that play all the time, but people that jump in, do the story once a year, move on, and come back. So a lot of times if you're a player who's solo, you're really not challenged, and you have to find these unique ways to make the game challenging for you. There are solo arenas, which is really unique. These can be really hard, and they have leaderboards. So that's a really fun way to experience solo PvE in a challenging environment. You can also queue up. So other games, you don't really have a whole lot of queue system. So if you're a solo player, I just want to click 2 buttons, jump in and play. And that's exactly what happens. As soon as level 10 comes, you can start doing battleground PvP, you can start doing dungeons, and yeah, you'll be playing with other players, but you don't have to be in a guild to basically click that button and start playing with other players, learn, meet, grow, and jump into a guild, and then next thing you know, you're doing PvE. So a couple things that holds ESO back from being number 1 on the list is the story is fantastic, but it lacks the choice that number 1 does. So you don't really have a whole lot of agency over your individual character. You're kind of more just doing this linear progression in the story, but there is continuity over a bunch of different expansions and quests. I would like a little bit more choice. Moreover, the main story is not hard at all, especially with the Overland content, so it's a joke. And that's what sucks for me, is when I go play this and hey, there's this evil bad guy in this expansion and you 2-shot him in 20 seconds, it doesn't really feel as impactful or as difficult. But you can do anything, go anywhere you want. It's available on a lot of platforms, and you have to buy it and you can subscribe. So you need to make an initial purchase, but now Elder Scrolls Online is very cheap to buy it initially and not sub, and experience hundreds of hours of great solo content, not requiring a single player to help you. Number 1 is Star Wars: The Old Republic. So this game, pretty old, developed by BioWare and published by Electronic Arts, was released in 2011 in the Star Wars universe. So it takes place in the past, thousands of years before the films, and I absolutely love it. There's 2 factions, Galactic Republic and Sith Empire. And this setting of the Old Republic is with tons of Sith and with tons of Jedi, all fighting this huge, massive, sprawling battle, planets, space battles, epic duels, you name it. And it's going to have a story-driven campaign experience, fully voice-acted, main quest. And that's what makes it stand out as an MMORPG. So Elder Scrolls Online and Star Wars Republic are kind of 1 and 2. And what separates SWTOR to me is 2 aspects. One is you get to make choices. Now, the game isn't as much as Mass Effect or Dragon Age, where you have these branching dialogues like Baldur's Gate 3, but it has enough, especially with the companions. And you have the light and the dark side, and your choices kind of stand out, and even the different dungeons with other players can change based on what everyone selects. You kind of have these rolling dice rolls. And so it's not a huge amount of change, but it's enough to make you feel like you have agency over your individual character, over your individual story, especially with the companions, which are well written, voice acted, and awesome. You're going to have a ton of different solo options to play, like your personal story. You got PvE content like flashpoints and dungeons, crafting, and also you can do PvP, and it has a queue system similar to Elder Scrolls Online. So the downside is it's on PC only, so it's going to be free to play as well as a subscription model. Now, that's another downside, is it's quote-unquote free to play, but it makes it very painful to do anything in the game without spending some money or subscribing. The population is also a bit low, so if you really want an endgame robust experience with tons of people crossplay, this is not going to be for you. Something I haven't touched on yet is you can scale the difficulty of the story and make it actually extremely challenging even for solo players. And you can get really good loot. I think probably the best of any MMORPG, maybe not the meta tier 1 gear, but sub below that, you can get it in Star Wars: Old Republic playing solo. That's what makes it so fun, is I don't have to really involve myself with anyone if I don't want to. I can fully immerse myself in the story. I can make it extremely challenging, and I can get some of the best loot and progress just like any of the end game players doing raiding. Maybe not to the absolute extreme level, but close enough where I feel like I'm competitive. And again, you have a wide variety of content. You can do solo PvE, PvP. You can do tons of crafting. You can update and level your companions. And it also has this legacy system. So as you experience more and more stories and complete them from the different classes and archetypes, you unlock these passive bonuses for the rest of your characters and even passive skills. And that's what makes it so fun, is the game incentivizes you to play the alts, play them over and over and over, and have this global progression of your story, your legacy in the Force. So is Star Wars: The Old Republic the best MMORPG ever? No, I don't think so, but it is a fantastic one for story and solo. If you want something that is sci-fi based, you love Star Wars, you want to jump in, you're tired of having 12 people, 24 people online to get anything in the game gear-wise, or you're tired of every MMORPG being super easy to complete the story, skip the rest of them. Trust me, jump into Star Wars: Republic. Well, gang, that's my experience with these MMORPGs. Hope you got something out of it if you're antisocial like me and just want to jump in and play these games without 75 people being online all the time. Give them a chance, and this save you some time and energy. Do me a big favor, hit that thumbs up, subscribe, and leave me a nasty comment. YouTube algorithm loves it. Thanks for watching.